All right, welcome back to another episode of A2 the show. Today we have John Wang, the creator of Big Asian Energy. John Wang, I
Let's
want to
go.
do a big intro and stuff, but I think you should explain what Big Asian Energy is, and then we go from there. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of Asian people have been, since I was growing up, perceived as being quiet and shy. And
Yeah.
I really hated that as a general idea because I think, first and foremost, there's a fundamental misunderstanding about how we're perceived. And it has to do with, how our culture shows up more in humility and humbleness and all these kind of things. So I would really, when I started working on this project, this book of like, okay, how do we help more of people who look like me step more into their full power and strength? The first thing that popped into mind was Big Asian Energy, because I really think that
Mm,
it's not just about the appearance and the performance of our confidence. It is the true embodiment of that, like unapologetic, this is who I am, and this is how I want to show up in the world. And that's what Big Asian Energy really is.
okay. So it's the projection of like the true persona of what Asians really are, what they're capable of, their abilities, their skill, and doing it in a confident manner. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. And how we get to that embodied, authentic confidence, like that to me is really the core of it.
Hmm. So you have this quiz that you've created on your website, and we did it. We took the quiz. We did it together. I was kind of telling Ali, please do not suggest anything because we need it to be correct. So I was doing it mainly, and I got Charmer. I I was upset
Ooh.
because I thought I was Big Asian Energy. I thought I was, the combination of Commander,
You
Charmer,
have
and
a long
I
way to
forgot the
go.
third one. So
it's
I'm
just
not
it's
in the
just you're
middle. I'm
too
not there
charming.
yet.
You're just too charming. This is the problem. The system could not handle the level of charm that you were bringing to it. I believe the young people these days call it Riz.
You got that
So
Riz, Saeed.
you just got that Riz. You like, what are you gonna do about it? I checked the system. It was coming back. It's over 3,000. I didn't even know what that meant. We have no numerical score. And this morning it's like your system is broken. Somebody who's so charming.
So I feel like you're also fall in the same category, John Wang. I'm not gonna lie, you've definitely got a big charmer attitude right there.
Well, I mean, I created the quiz really so I can meet more people like me. So I'm really glad that that's working.
Charmers unite. There we
this
go.
is this is what we're here for, really. It's really a friendship building community. It's not really about how to help ourselves at all. But I feel like you
So
guys. Here's the thing. I
yeah,
I feel
okay.
like you guys should get the. I would have imagined the rebel would have shown up because I
Oh,
believe one of the core
Ooh.
messages was this is like
a
you are
rebellion.
leading a rebellion,
Yes, the
right?
mental rebellion.
The mental rebellion. So I'm surprised that rebel wasn't high up on the list.
Maybe
Well, I
Ali gets it.
yeah, I didn't get to do
Yeah,
the quiz myself, but maybe that's what I would have gotten. But see, we were striving for big Asian energy. I don't think I'd be satisfied with any one of the smaller categories. I want to have it all.
that's right. Yeah,
What does it
and I
take?
want.
Is there a
I just
way?
want to say there's no right answer, right? Like when it comes to the quiz, when we created it, really it's about identifying. Because when we were putting it together, I actually worked with a psychologist, and
Mm,
we're kind of like, okay, so is there like a right way to be like? Is there a way to kind of hit that big Asian energy in the middle? And the truth is that
Hmm.
it's not an identity. It's not something we are. These are just roles that we flow in and out of. Right? These are the patterns that we get to identify, and the patterns are all helpful.
Okay.
And the question is just, do they still help us now? And are we
mm.
using it as a crutch, or are we using it because it's who we truly are?
So Big Asian Energy would be more of similar to like flow state, would you say? Like
Yes,
when
yeah.
you've
Big Asian energy is you.
okay.
It is who you truly are beneath these patterns that we may have developed. And these patterns
Hmm.
might
Hmm.
include charm. They might include that rebel side of us. That includes that achiever side of us. But as long as it's not coming from a place where I feel like that's a mask I have to put on, in order to be accepted either at my workplace or by my environment and community, even by our families. And I think
Yeah.
that's really the main thing.
You know, you mentioned something really important, that having a mask on in the workplace with maybe with your friends, your family, certain communities that you're within, you always have some sort of a mask. So how does one become aware that they're wearing a mask, and like how do they remove it? I mean, some because like people, I think in certain situations with myself, I've worn the mask and I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
It really just depends on who I'm talking to.
Mm-hmm.
So what why do we wear these masks, and how do we find a way to maybe just go through them, like not wear, like remove it basically?
Yeah. I mean, have you ever been to, hang out with a group of friends, or, been to an event in which you're talking to somebody and in your mind you're going, this is what I truly feel and this is what I feel like I really want to say, but then hold back because we think, well, I don't know. Will this be too confrontational? Will this be something that challenges our relationship? Will this,
Hmm.
shift how they feel about me? That becomes a mask. So, we all have variations of who we are. Like you use the word persona. I think it's great.
Mm-hmm.
We all have personas, right? When I go to work, I'm not going to, talk to my boss, my colleagues the way that I would talk to my best friend. And I certainly
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't talk to my mom the way I talk to my best friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are
Yeah.
understandable.
Yeah.
The question is just in those situations, are we doing it unconsciously, kind of like you said, because it is coming from a protective mechanism? So you asked a great question, which is how do I know if I'm putting on a mask? And the answer is you could check in internally and ask, did that feel when I was saying it like it was a truthful version of myself, or am I just trying to get something out of that dynamic? And that's what I'm doing it.
Mm, okay. So, and this would definitely happen maybe after the interaction, not during the interaction itself.
I think we know
Like you'd
from
have to
moment to
reflect
moment.
on.
Yeah. I think we
Mm,
know from moment to moment if we're trying to puff ourselves up, if we are saying something in order to placate or in order to get a response. And we know in the context that we're not being fully authentic. I think that the awareness, like you became aware of it. So clearly at some
yeah.
point you developed that discernment and that ability to recognize who. I wonder if that was coming from a true authentic place or if that was coming from something else. And it's like a radar that we have to start developing once we know it exists, because for a lot of us it's
Hmm.
just how we live
Hmm.
life. For myself, certainly.
You know, for me personally, I feel like growing up, I didn't have a mask, which
Hmm.
kind of rubbed people off in the wrong way. And then in recent years, I started creating one in
Hmm.
certain social situations because Ellie knows me since I was in high school. Like, I definitely have this excess energy, and I feel like a lot of that energy goes into keeping up the mask.
Hmm.
And when I was back, for example, in university, I feel like that's when the most time I didn't have the mask on, where I was just like very social, very outgoing. I'd say whatever that comes to my mind. Maybe it wasn't always the right thing or like the socially acceptable thing, depending, like obviously depending on who I'm talking to. Um, but I think I was much happier in those moments. Like I knew
Hmm.
who are the people who actually accepted me and I could talk to. But now, because I'm older, um, obviously been exposed to life a bit more, you start to realize that in certain social situations, actually most social situations, you do need the mask because you can't just be like no filter, no mask to everyone you just meet.
That's where I
It's
think you're wrong, Said. Sorry. You have the mask
okay.
on, I have the mask off. Let's be real. Let me tell
Yeah,
you why.
go for it.
Let me tell you why. Because you only have one life. And if you're going to spend your whole life trying to pretend to be someone that you're not, I think
Hmm.
that's a waste of your life. And I think you care too much about what other people think of you, and that's why you
Yeah.
put on that mask. But in reality, bro, not everyone's gonna like you. And even with your mask on, sorry to tell you, not everyone's gonna like you. So would you rather be not liked with your mask on or not liked with your mask off? I know the answer. Mask off.
I'm gonna side
That's a
with
good
Ali
point.
on this one. I think we give people the belief that if they have to put on a mask to be accepted, then that acceptance is real. But the truth is that you're not really being accepted. Like if you're spending
Hmm.
time with your friends and you're finding that you're constantly having to shrink yourself, lower your voice, self-censor your ideas, and like that's the version they like. And then when you start sharing who you truly are, they feel, injured or they start backing off. Were they ever
Yeah,
really accepting of you?
Mm.
Are they ever going to be accepting of you? I think that's the real question that we have to ask ourselves.
And then why are you
that is
surrounding
a
yourself
very
with
good
these
point.
people then, if they don't like you for who you are? One thing I learned about Asian culture, and you can correct me if
Yeah,
I'm wrong,
yeah,
John Wang, about
yeah.
um I heard that they do like personality tests are kind of big in Korea, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, huge.
And okay, and it helps with people getting jobs, and they kind of hire people based on their personality, Myers-Briggs personality type. Is that true? That or is that something I just my friend Sunny told me about it, and she's from Korea, so I believe her, but I don't know.
I I don't know specific in Korea or the stats of how many companies do this. I remember when I was born in Taiwan, and
Mm.
I have a Taiwanese friend who applied for a job, and they asked them to list his horoscope, like what sign he is and what blood type. And I don't know if you're aware of this because I don't know if I believe in this personally, but blood type personality tracking is huge. So
What?
yeah, have you never heard of this? So like
No.
blood type
No, I've never
personality
heard of
is
this.
like I
In my
get
life.
sent message. My mom sends me articles, and I told her, I'm like, Mom, I'm not buying this. I like show me the double blind research studies.
Where's
That's
that big
been
Asian
peer-reviewed.
energy with the blood test?
But she sent me these things like, oh, O type personality people are like, they're really like, you're just an O type, and your dad's an O type, so like you're loud and you get aggressive. I'm like, what? Like,
What about I'm AB positive?
yeah.
I don't know what that has to do.
Well,
Yeah, you're
AB
one of those.
positives are
You're
like
the biggest
Virgos.
takers, are.
Right? Like, so
Wait,
yeah.
so this is contradictory because like you're saying AB positive are Virgos and O positives are loud and stuff. Like
I have no
I'm
idea.
both.
I made that
I'm a
up.
Vir-
I made that
I'm a,
up.
wait, I'm a Virgo and I'm an O. So what I'm just like completely contradicting myself then.
That's why you got to put on the mask, because nobody understands you based on your blood type. You walk around and he's just like, oh, he's such a B negative. And you're like, that's just my mask, guys. It's just a performance I'm putting on. I tricked you into thinking.
That's the whole plan. Trick everyone.
But it exists. But so to answer your question, yeah, 100%.
Yes.
Like there are people who take this stuff very, very seriously, and I have opinions on it, but I like to see science. I like to see data on that. But it is something that I've heard.
I think
about,
it does
for sure.
make sense that, like, if you have a company where everyone's more introverted, and then so you're trying to hire someone that's a bit more extroverted, that could cause maybe issues and
Conflict.
friction. Yeah, conflict within
Yeah.
your agency, and that's just one
Mhm.
microcosm. But also maybe you need balance within your agency. I don't know. So
It could
that's
be.
what it's just interesting how people take personality tests so seriously. Yeah.
I could see it if the perspective is a cultural thing. They're like, we're a very, quiet, traditional, like our core values of our brand are a little bit more like proper and put together and subtle. And having somebody who's rambunctious on there might not be a good fit. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of things, even like personality type, like the MBTI, for example, talking about Myers-Briggs, it's easier to treat it just as like this is a shorthand way to describe how you show up in most situations, rather than to treat it as exact science, for example.
That's fair. And then, so when you're talking about big Asian energy, what's the difference between big Asian energy and big energy? Why is it specific to Asians?
Because at least in the West and North America, I do find that there still exists this vision of Asian Americans as, oh, we're quiet and, you know, we're overly nice and cute, or any of these adjectives that I've heard describe me. And I'm like, I'll take cute. I'll take cute. Look, I'm not gonna fight that hard on that
I
one.
prefer handsome. But yeah, I'll take cute.
I'll take what I can get. I have not been described as quiet in an accurate way, and I'm like, if you think Asians are quiet, you have not hung out with many Asians. You tried telling my mom she's quiet while fighting for the bill with her at dim sum. She is not quiet. There is a misunderstanding that is taking place, and that's where it is that I wanted to bring in the culture, because what I really dive into when we're talking Asian culture really is collectivist versus individualist cultures, and what we call high context communication versus low context communication cultures. And in countries like, let's say, Japan or Korea, Asia, you know, East Asia or South Asia or Southeast Asia, there's different degrees of things like assertiveness, right? Like, how often do we see people assert what their beliefs are, and how often their communication style is, let's just be more reserved, let's hold back on these thought process. And I find that in the West, certainly there's this perception that Asian Americans are quiet. And I'm like, dude, you need to hang out with more Asians. Like, go to a market on a weekend and tell me Asians are quiet.
Go to a Korean barbecue.
Go to a Korean barbecue
on a Friday night. Yeah, exactly. And then you're after a bunch
let's
of
see
sake.
if we can see ourselves think.
Yeah, exactly. People are gonna start doing backflips. Yeah, in the middle of the Korean barbecue. You know, so.
Which, by the way, I love Korean barbecue, and it's definitely not a quiet place to be.
Oh.
So when you're talking about Asian, is it mostly like East Asian you're talking about, or I know we're Lebanese, so we're very Middle Eastern, but
yeah, West Asians.
We're West Asians.
Is it West Asian or Central? West and West Asian and Central Asians typically gets forgotten. I'm not even going to mention the North, you know, the North Asians, which I guess are like Mongolians. They're Asian. Yeah. So really, what we're talking about is Asian culture, as in collectivist culture. You know, the funny thing is Asians don't really exist outside, like, unless you're outside of Asia, right? Like, if you're in Asia, nobody refers to themselves as Asians. Like, you refer to yourself by the country. Yeah. I'll share a story that maybe you can relate with. Like, I remember when I was younger, I would go to I went to a friend's house. I think I was in like elementary school at this time. When I was growing up, I was always taught, when you go to a friend's house, like an auntie or uncle's house, or like a family friend's house, like, how you present and what you're allowed to accept is a reflection on your family, right? So like, if somebody offers you, like a host offers you food, you have to turn it down. That was just what I was taught. And you have to turn it down multiple times, and then finally you accept. And you understand.
Maybe.
Like, right? Like, the host understands it. They're like, yeah, like, we're supposed to. Okay, thanks for turning it down. Again, and we have to do this dance 3 times. So in my mind,
oh my god,
yeah, this is landing.
Yes,
I can relate. Yeah.
Can relate.
It's like it's very.
Yeah.
Like, did it ever annoy you, like, having to do that dance consistently?
So I didn't know any different until I came to North America, and I went to a friend's house, and my friend, we went in, and my friend's mom was like, "Oh yeah, hey, welcome," and he's just like, "Oh, this is John," and was like, "Hey, do you want something to eat?" And I was like, "No, I'm fine. I'm not hungry." Because you're supposed to. But I'm an elementary school kid after school. Of course I'm hungry. You're making chocolate milk. Like, I could drink 3 gallons of that. I could empty out your fridge and it wouldn't be enough. And I thought that was understood. And instead they were just like, oh, well, okay, well, it's too bad. And then moved on. And I'm just like, what's happening? Like, what? But I was taught that you don't. I don't taught that. You're supposed to be able to ask for what you need, or even receive what you need, and that might even come in the forms of somebody pays you a compliment. You're supposed to turn it down, but no, you can actually just say thank you. I really appreciate that. that you recognize that. That means a lot. Like, I didn't realize you could just do that until I came here. And that shift, or even the guilt that I would have felt accepting a compliment or accepting a gift like that, and not immediately going to like, oh no, like, did I accidentally offend them by saying this? Like, that's where it is that I'm seeing myself hold back, that maybe I don't need to. I don't know. Does this relate to?
Yes,
I feel like this would
100%.
definitely relate.
Yes,
right?
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So like this is
Like,
You're making me think about all the
no, keep going. You've
the
got
pros and cons of like collectivist culture. And in some ways, it's so beautiful, and we go back to Lebanon often. And you know, I miss the family unit and the social dynamics, but also like there are some things where it's like, yeah, I prefer like the individualist American aspect. Like, for example, like always commenting on the smallest things, like, oh my gosh, your hair, oh my gosh, your shirt, oh my gosh, you gained a little bit of weight, oh my gosh, you blah 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 blah. I'm like, oh, I just what, like, I get they're trying to be kind and like try. I don't know. I guess that's just what people do, and they look out for each other. But in a way, can't I just be myself? And you know, you don't have to set rules and tell me what to do. I don't know.
I swear to God, there's a shared Excel sheet somewhere around every single Asian family, or you know, that tracks your weight before you show up. They're just like, all right, where are you at right now? Are you gaining or losing weight compared to last time? Marriage status, how many kids you're having,
job, yeah, totally, everything.
Job
like
status, and then they have to then update you on everyone else who's in that field. It's just
Is he still practicing the piano?
Yeah, exactly, right. So like all of these things can filter through how we feel like we have to show up, especially in those kind of worlds.
True. And something like, just to add on that point, it's like me personally, I enjoy the collective more than the individualism. Like Ali said, certain parts, yes, the individualism is important. Like if someone is asking me if I'm hungry and they want to offer me food, if I'm saying no, I really don't. I'm actually saying no. I know when I'm hungry. I know what I want to eat. Please stop pushing food on me. But something that I do enjoy is that when you're like at a certain low point, that concept of the collectivism where everyone wants to be involved, everyone wants to know what's happening, then everyone wants to help you.
Absolutely.
Like without you even asking, people are just like offering their help. That's for me. I believe like that's like a very wholesome thing about like that about the collectivism. It's like when you go to the West, you're kind of on your own. There's no one's actually necessarily going to offer their help. No one is, and even if you ask, they're always going to be looking for a way, maybe that how they can gain or benefit from helping you, which is kind of detrimental, I would say.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I feel like the West could use a little bit more collectivism. I feel like there's a fervor of individuality to the point, especially I look at the younger generations, and sometimes I'm like, there's a general feeling that everything is about the self, and everything is about how does this affect me? How does this influence me? And personally, I think social media plays a big role in how it is that we almost become so hyper attached to the individual. And I do think that the West could use more collectivism. It could use not just like community, but how we individuate and how we index what we're trying to focus on. So like if you go to collectivist cultures, the family comes first. So if you're doing something, it reflects on your family and you think about that. Whereas in the West, you're kind of on your own once you become an adult. And that over individualism, I feel like, kind of kills the familial ties in that community that we need. I'll use this as an example.
100%.
I don't know if you're familiar, but in Asian cultures, it's very common to live with your family after you become an adult. In fact, it's seen as strange if you move out unless you got married. It's like, why? You know? And I've always felt like that needs to exist more in North America. I'm like, why isn't that more normal? To the point that if you go on a date and you're like, you know, let's say in your mid-20s and you say, yeah, I live with my family, there's this judgment of like, oh, it's because you can't afford to move out. Whereas I think in Asia, it's just like, well, no, I'm there to take care of them, especially when they get old. And that kind of cultural value, I'm like, we need more of that here. We need way more of that. This kind of like anticipation that we have a community to fall back on. I think it'll make us less anxious. I think it'll make us more empathetic and understanding, compassionate. There's just so many more things that I think that we'd benefit from by bringing more collectivism.
100%. I definitely agree with that. It also like you mentioned a key point about the empathy part, because like once people feel like they're separate, so when they in the West, when they at the age of 18, you're somehow officially an adult and you have to leave the house. I feel like that's a massive burden to place on someone from such an early
Yeah.
age, especially with the current the current economic situation. But anyway, no, making it seem so drastic and so dramatic. But I mean, it is a lot of stress to put on someone who's a teenager, you know, and a lot of people obviously get affected by that. And then when they do leave their parents' house and the parents are not necessarily supportive, they can develop some sort of, maybe, I don't know, detachment or abandonment. Like they would develop certain issues that will carry on into their future relationships. And when you see that, you're like, I mean, this could have all been avoided. It doesn't have to be like that. Like, is this
Yeah.
just in the West? Is there something wrong with families? I that's something that's like a thought that pops into my head. Is like, why are parents like pushing their kids out?
I think it's a cultural value difference. And that makes sense when you take a look at the Eurocentrism and the history of things. But I feel like
Mm,
in modern day culture, it's much more of a North American thing.
Mhm.
Actually, if you
yeah,
take a look at, we look at communication styles and we look at family dynamics, the further back you go to even Europe, there are a lot of focus on community focused values, and your whole family is usually seen as one cohesive unit. It isn't until the kind of nuclear family development, in I would say the mid 1900s in the US, that we start seeing this idea of being a focus on a nuclear family, focus on like the parents and the 2.5 kids and the dog and the cat, right, all living as a singular, and then
yeah.
this repopulation. I think both cultures can glean from each other, but I feel like we are going to see a need for us to kind of swing back the pendulum to reconnect with
Totally.
family.
Hmm. Yeah, my point of view on like leaving the home at 18 is that I think I think life is full of adventure, and there's so much in the world you want to see, and you want to develop yourself and gain your independence. And I think you learn a lot from leaving your home, even if it's just for a time being. Leaving, coming back later in the future, there's a lot you're going to learn, a lot you're going to be able to bring back to your family once you go on this, journey.
Mm-hmm.
So that's for my own personal belief, is that yes, I'm far from my family in Lebanon, and I obviously love them and I want to be closer to them, but I'm taking advantage of this opportunity of my life, this time of my life right now, to become the big Asian energy that I was born to be, and then come back with big Asian energy and inspire others to live to their own big energy, big Asian energy potential.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, you're absolutely right. So this is where it is that I think is where the cultural values sometimes in certain families can get taken too far, or why it is that the individualism with the collectivism is oftentimes what works best.
Mm-hmm.
So when you move out, you gain new understanding, new ideas, and you bring that information back to the family and improve upon it. And this is what's supposed to happen, right? You're supposed to go and get an education, work experience, or whatever it is, and better the family unit with what you've come back to. And even if that looks just like living alone is not a problem in and of itself, I think where it gets too much on either side is either there's this complete disconnect and you're like, I'm just doing me now. Or on the other hand, it's, well, you can't leave, or you can't have a different view from what my as parents, my children shouldn't have a different viewpoint than what I do. And that's when it is that we start seeing conflicts happen, right? Because we do need to, in some ways, have our own agency, develop our own thought process so we can become an adult and better the next generation.
What are your thoughts on like people being like lonely, even in collectivist countries? Like there's, from what I understand, there's a big issue with loneliness. I mean, in America too, but all over the world. But also you find in these Asian cultures in Lebanon, and I've heard a lot about like, you know, in Far Eastern countries too, about loneliness, people dating AI. That's becoming a big thing in Japan, from what I understand. And, you know, people falling in love with Chat GPT, cuddling it as they go to bed and saying their dreams, and sending love letters to Chat GPT, and, you know, finding a soulmate within an app. It's like,
Oof.
so weird. Yeah. So how do we fight that? Is that a problem that you see?
100%. And this is, I think, where it is that the over indexing on the mask becomes an issue. And there's a Japanese term that's called hikikomori, which is somebody who experiences, you know, social withdrawal. And it has become such a common issue that the Japanese government actually appointed a minister of loneliness for this. She's a mother whose son, I know, was somebody who was this kind of like very isolated, emotionally isolated, goes into their own little world and stays independent. And in like that sense, to me, is where it is that we have an issue to address. And if you take a look at why, right, that's the question is that why are they withdrawing? Like, you're right. There was a story when I visited Japan last year, and I found out about a story of somebody, you know, there's a whole group of people who are marrying these like AI dolls, like, and they have full on ceremonies. People go and attend the weddings. The company actually started issuing marriage certificates. It's wild. It's wild. But if you look at why, and that was the question, I was like, why? Like, this doesn't make any sense. As you said, like, we're so focused on collectivists. Why isn't there people who kind of fall into this? Why is there so much of this? And it has to do with this appearance, this pressure to appear a certain way, and that pressure to fall into, again, like the expectations of other people. Speaking of Japan, I think there's a film being made about this, because there's a company that lets you rent family members to show up either at events, as in, like, you know, there was a story about like somebody who rented a groom to visit with his parents, her parents, at a wedding, because her actual groom, her actual husband to be, had tattoos. So she was like, well, we can't have that, so I'm going to rent a fake husband to show my parents so that they could accept him. That to me is, again, I'm like, at your wedding. And then there's another story about like, you know, somebody who has to go and hire parents, like fake parents, to come to the wedding. So like, there's go look this up. There's yes, I love Saeed's reaction to this. Like,
Saeed, you could totally do it. Saeed's like, wait, a job opportunity for me? I could do that. I could be your fake friend, fake boyfriend, fake husband. Hire me, rent me out, you know?
You want to pay me to just to stand there and exist? That's fine. I'll take some photos. I'll chill with you. No problem. But what the fuck are people doing? How are people getting away with this? Like, do people not look at the photos and then meet the person in person and be like, yeah, there's something wrong here, you know? These aren't the same people in the photos. I mean, what? Anyway, sorry. Just reacting.
But it's about face, right? Like, it's about face. You want to make sure that the person who's showing up is giving your family face. Yeah. And that face and that honoring is so important. And that's where it is that is so difficult. Incidentally, I'm just going to point this out. I'm going to throw it out there. I think that the rental family member on average get paid around $75 an hour. So, you know, if anyone's out there looking for a new job change, and, you know, the idea of playing a family member works out for them, there's definitely an option. I think Conan O'Brien did this.
That's a crazy hourly, I'm not gonna lie, man. Anyway, fun
Yeah.
in a
So
bar.
this is a big one. Like reunions are big, families are big, and then there's also people who just want that emotional connection. I remember watching a documentary talking about this, and there was a Japanese man who says he just rents a wife and a daughter to come and sit and have dinner with him once every couple of weeks or once every week, and it's because he himself has two kids, but he doesn't know how to talk to them.
Mm.
Wait,
So
so
he
is he?
feels lonely. He Mhm.
So does he rent them as in to practice, or what's going on? Like
just
I
to
would
feel less
Spend
understand.
lonely.
time.
Like if you don't know how to talk to your kids,
Yeah.
maybe you get a practice dummy, and then you be like, "Yo, how the fuck do I talk to this being? Please help me."
Yeah.
And then the
I mean
like as a
that would
coaching,
make
that would be good.
sense.
Yeah, as a
Yeah,
coaching, that
that
would be
would
a
make
good
sense.
idea. But like I don't know.
I think in this situation, at least in the documentary I was watching about this, it was just because he missed his family. And in those times where he is sitting with them, I mean, there's very strict rules and boundaries about intimacy. Like they have to like negotiate beforehand. It's like there's no hugging, like light touching is okay.
Yeah,
But they come and they play act the family unit, so that he could feel like he has a family. And it's easy for any one of us to go, well, why don't you just go talk to your real family? You have a real family. And but there's no languaging around it because the discussions of deeper topics is oftentimes not accepted because it's seen as rude or hurt, difficult or challenging. So this is part of why it is that I think we need to find that middle ground.
this this sounds like maybe like this would be an issue maybe with like parents who are possibly going through a rough time themselves. Like maybe
Mm,
they are probably like I can relate to this on a certain extent because during my teenage years I didn't have proper communication with my father, for example, and
mhm.
I think that distance kind of affected that, and him living in a different country definitely affected the communication between us because when we used to live together, there wasn't that issue. You know, yes, he's a bit of a workaholic. That's fine. Like we found ways around it, and we still enjoyed our weekends with him. That's there was a schedule, there was a routine. Then when we had that distance, it became more difficult because we're the type of people who like to communicate in person. Um, so once the distance comes in, it becomes really hard to have that, and I think that took a toll
Mm.
on the both of us. So from my personal experience, I would say maybe this has to do with the type of communication style those individuals have and maybe what they're going through in their personal lives because
Absolutely.
maybe work can like affect you in a way where you don't have so like working in a corporate job, for example, like this is from my own perspective. When you work in a corporate job, you tend to maybe not show your emotional side that much, and when you want to go back to your family, that's where you do want to show your emotions. That's where you want to express yourself. You want to not have that mask on. Maybe for certain people, they just forget that the mask is still on and they keep it going throughout the day. Like even when they go back home, the mask is still on. It's like, oh, I should not show my emotions, not express, still stay tough. And they don't realize that. They're not aware of it. So that's just my take on that. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense um, when we're in our zone of genius, when we're in our families and places where we understand that there's context, right? Like
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're a dad, like don't go talk to your kids about how you're afraid you're going to lose your job, right? Like unless it's come to that point, which but like you don't have to trauma dump on your kids and being like, I was reflecting on my childhood and I realized I've got a lot of imposter syndrome. Like that's not appropriate, obviously. But a question that I often have is like, how many people feel that they could truly be themselves around their parents, like truly showcases everything that's going on in their lives and feel that they have that safety and environment to be accepted. And
Yeah.
a lot of people I know their answer back is, "Oh God, I can't imagine." Like,
Yeah.
telling my parents what I'm actually into.
Yeah.
They
It's
still
just a
think I
different
have a degree.
generation.
They still think I'm married. They still think I'm straight. Oh God. And I think that's where it is that like the distancing is too far, right? Like, sure, you don't have to, talk about everything, but if you feel like the version of you that your parents know and the version of you that you know are complete strangers, maybe that's where it is that we can build some better bridges.
Ooh, that's pretty deep.
That is. But then there are
Yeah,
certain topics that you do not want to share with your parents.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm mostly myself, and I'm happy being myself with my family. But there's just some topics that just we can't agree on just because of
Yeah.
I guess generational differences, and I don't know. Maybe that's me not being big Asian energy, but we're trying, we're learning, we're here to learn from you. And Said also had some wanted to know more about big Asian energy.
Yes. But before that, John, you wanted to comment. You wanted to share something on what Ali was saying.
Yeah. I think it's discernment. There is, of course, your own privacy. The question is, safety is not conditioned based upon privacy. What I mean by that is like there's a difference between, I don't want to share because like what I do in my bedroom, my parents don't need to know the details.
Exactly.
And I would please, and if my mom and dad, like, if I don't need your details, like we could just pretend we've never talked about that. Totally fine.
Good.
I was recently watching this this film on Netflix about a girl, however, who had to make up an entire degree to her parents. And this is a very famous story. Her, it's big news, of course, and this is an extreme case, but it's a reflection of, what enough people feel. Her name is, I think, Jennifer Pan. And she basically struggled in school. She was going through some stuff. She struggled in school. She, I think had some bad grades. She didn't make it into college. So instead, she told her parents that she was going to school to get a degree that she wasn't going to. They drop her off at school every morning. She then, go and call her boyfriend. And, the story ends up being really crazy because it got to a point which finally they found out and, told her to break up with her boyfriend. And then she actually hired people to come and like put a hit on her parents. That's the wild part. But yeah.
But how are you just what?
Oh, well.
A hit on her parents? We're just gonna
put a hit on her parents. Yeah.
We're just gonna skip over that.
What the fuck? So grounded.
Look,
I'd be so grounded.
Okay, no, keep going. Yeah.
And what I felt like this story showcases, and again, this is not the majority, this is very much the minority, but the pressures that some people go through in their families in which they feel like they can't show up. Mm-hmm. Because if they shared the struggles they were going through, they would either get judged, get yelled at, get criticized or compared, etc. That's the safety in which is this just about privacy, or are you actually feeling like there's an unsafety with your own family? And that to me is where the difference is. Like, yeah, you don't tell your parents you have sex toys, but like, if you're going through, like, you're not in college and you can't tell your parents that like academically you're struggling and have them be compassionate and help you, that's where the issue becomes a problem.
What would happen if you told your parents you had sex toys, Side? They'd probably hate you with them.
I'd rather not think about that situation. Like, I don't want to paint the picture, Adi. I'm actively using all of my mental energy to block that image out of my head that you tried to put in my head. Not even thinking about it. Anyway, so God damn, Adi, we're gonna have to talk to you about your etiquette, about like reining in your thoughts. Some things should just not be talked about.
This is the same place. This is Big Asian Energy. So anyway, I'm here to showcase my sex toys. Let's dive into the really Big Asian Energy.
So something that I did want to maybe go over was, is, and this, in my opinion, has to be attached to big Asian energy, is a person's purpose. Now, for
Mm.
me, purpose is just basically being useful to society,
Mm.
contributing to society, um, maybe helping, like taking care of your family in any way that you can, and just basically adding value. That for me is like maybe that should be everyone's purpose. But then obviously there's always this picture painted like, oh, you should have a purpose, you should follow your path, yada yada yada, because that's what motivates you. But I'm gonna be a bit like obviously just like fluid in my language, but what the fuck do they mean by that? What the fuck is this purpose? What is like follow your path and stuff? Brother, I understand. Okay, you have a path. Maybe in like in religion they say it's like you have to follow the path, go to the light and stuff like that. What is this path? What is this purpose that they're talking about? What's going on? Everyone says purpose. What is purpose? Please help explain, John. What's going on?
I love the fluidity in your language.
Thank you, thank
I
you.
love the way you preface that. There's some fluidity in my language. What the fuck? Great,
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I feel like we over dramatize purpose. I feel like there's this fantasy that we have where it's like
Oh yeah.
you're supposed to go on this wild journey and adventure, which somehow always takes you to Bali and Costa Rica or something like that, and go on an ayahuasca journey. And one day I just woke up and I heard my calling from the clouds opened and like got. I like we make this far too complicated. Yeah, right? Like we really?
Yes.
Like really? Like the clouds opened and the angels heralded to you. You're so special that you get a purpose from God on a silver scroll that says you are meant for greater things. I believe that purpose is something that feels personally fulfilling, which is just, is this like, I use the metaphor of a mountain. If you feel like your life has no purpose, it's usually because you're not picking a challenge that is yours. It's because you're feeling like, oh, I'm just going through the motion at this point because that's what's expected of me, but I don't personally have a value attachment to something that I care about. And that's the thing, is that we all have different personal values, right? We have societal values. That values might be, ambition, for example, might be a social value, right? Or your own personal family values. Maybe loyalty is a family value. Maybe respect is a family value. And then we have personal values. So personal values might just be things that you really care about. Maybe like what you really care about is artistry and creativity. Great. And if that's the case, great. I can tell you right now, a lot of people, they will say, my purpose was my children. When my children were born, that's when I discovered my purpose. And I look at that and go, great, because you value your children. Thank God. Like you're doing something right. Like I would question any parent who doesn't feel like their purpose includes their children. I think that we pick a purpose that feels connective to our values, and that gives us a sense of accomplishment. And that's just different for everyone. It's like picking a mountain and saying, well, that's my goal. That's where I want to be. I'm going to go climb that mountain. Once I get to the top, I'm going to go find the next mountain to climb. And are we living in alignment with those values? That's really all our purpose is.
So how does one find his mountain then? Like, where is this mountain that you're speaking of?
I think that if you don't know your purpose is to find your purpose. I mean, the truth is we all have, like, the word purpose got trendy, but we all have it generationally speaking. Every generation has a different thing, calling, purpose, passion, whatever it is. But really it's just, what is it that you actually want? Like if I could be just like simplifying it down, it'd be like, what do you actually want in your life? What would make you feel satisfied and content when you've reached it? And for some people it's money, and for a lot of people the answer is not. They're like, I don't care to have a yacht and a Lambo. I want to take care of my family. That's what I really believe in. Or I want to go and build something that is important to me personally. This is a project that I care really about. The question that you ask, how do I find it, is you go and look at the things that you currently are doing. There's a lot of places I think we can find evidence of it. There's no singular answer. Like I said, there's no herald coming down with a golden scroll that's like, your purpose is, go and, build a baseball diamond to somebody who doesn't care about baseball.
Yeah.
But if them, right, like if they were kids and that was where they found community, and that was where they found joy, and that was where they found competitiveness, and that's where it is that they felt at home, then that might be their purpose. We don't discover a purpose, we create a purpose. Like we
Okay.
fucked up the languaging when we first gave it a brand and we said, go find your purpose, and people think it's outside of them. I
Yeah.
think that purpose is internal. You create it and you go, does this feel right? Is this in alignment with my values? And if it's yes, great. Go
Maybe I
pursue
can
it.
add my point of view on this and my
Yeah.
interpretation of big Asian energy. I think the way I interpret big Asian energy is like there's some things in life that you know that are obvious to you, like having friends. I like see Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So like having food, having a house. Okay, then you have friends. Then you have a romantic partner. And then you're working on your body, you're getting in shape. And then you start working on maybe making more money. And then you start leveling up the things that are very obvious in front of you. And then you reach that point where you have that, like everything that's obvious to you is already taken care of. That's when you reach big Asian energy, that higher level where then you're able to like really then like, you know, you don't need to take ayahuasca or go to the Maldives, you know, that's it. Just being in that
Nothing
state,
wrong with that, of course.
you're gonna be itching for what comes next, because once you've met all these things in your life and shown that you can progress and learn and take on any challenge, I think once you're in that spot, that's when you can elevate to the next level. And whether that's passion or discovery or purpose or big Asian energy, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. That's my personal interpretation of it. And another thing to add to that too, I love the Japanese ikigai. I think I said that right.
Ikigai, yeah.
Which is like just finding something that you're good at, something that makes money, something that you know enjoy, spend time doing, and bingo, that's it. It's not, it doesn't get crazier than that.
I agree. I love Ikigai as a concept.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what you mentioned about Maslow, because this actually Maslow does talk about purpose, right? Self-actualization is supposedly at the very top. And self-actualization is basically when we're connecting to something that has personal growth, has authenticity, is about our own values, talents, creativity, and meaning. And that's it, right? Meaning. It's like, what do we give meaning to? What do we put the most amount of meaning to? That's when it is that we will feel fulfilled as a need. A lot of people don't know this. I'm not sure you're familiar, but there's actually a level above that that Maslow talked about, but it almost always gets forgotten because people don't mention it in his original graph. But there's a level above self-actualization called self-transcendence. And Maslow actually talked about this, that once we go past self-actualization, when we are complete and feeling self-actualized, the next level is transcendence. And transcendence is going beyond the self to serve something greater than what we have and who we are. That's when we go and pursue humanity, altruism, spirituality, and we lose our self-centeredness, and we get into the state where the self is no longer the central point. We're here to serve. And I think that's where we come full circle.
Wow, I didn't know about that. That's a great insight, self-transcendence. So when getting rid of the ego, because we're all here just trying to serve ourselves, and we have to, you have to put on your own life jacket before giving it to the other person, right? So you want to make sure that you work on yourself, and being selfish can be selfless if you put it in that. What do you think about that one?
No, I love it. I 100% agree. I started a nonprofit foundation a while back. It was called One Kindness, and the mission was selflessness through selfishness. Because the whole point of it was we'll go to schools and organizations and do these like 30-day kindness challenges where they would go and do acts of kindness every single day, like random acts of kindness. And we sold it as, don't do it for them, do it for yourself. Because there's so many benefits to being kind. There's like studies have literally shown it makes you live longer, it makes you happier, it makes you more attractive to the opposite sex. It makes you a better partner. it pretty much it makes your sex toys collection much larger. Every possible benefit. That last one I may have made up. Please don't add that to my Wikipedia entry. But my main point behind it was, if you do it from a place of, I expect nothing back. I'm not doing this so that I could show people I'm a better person. I'm just doing this because being kind makes me joyful and feel purposeful and feel connective. Then do it from that place. And that's, I think, what the heart of all of what we're talking about really is.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Said, that's a lot. And I'll add one more thing to top off on John Wang as well.
Go ahead.
Think I love this conversation because we're kind of like mixing like Asian and Western philosophies and trying to like see where the true balance is. I love like Zen philosophy and the Tao Te Ching and just being like water and just flowing, and that's how we kind of approach this podcast. I mean, we didn't go to school for podcasting. We didn't like hire a coach to teach us how to do this. We kind of literally like piece by piece figured it out just by doing. The act of doing was how we came up with this podcast, and I'm very proud of it. And we've gotten to our level of success just by winging it and figuring it out. But for me, I learned that from like Asian philosophies, so like because from my understanding, it's like you don't have to be so rigid on how to learn the thing. It's more about doing the thing, and you will learn how to do it. So and we talked about Maslow, and we talked about the Tao Te Ching. So how about that for a wholesome?
This was by far the most spiritually connective conversation I've ever had on a podcast that also involved talking about sex toys. So thank you.
Thank you. We try our best. We include all elements: physical, mental, spiritual, whatever you want. It's all on here.
This is the next level. This is what self-transcendence looks like on the A2 show.
You can travel on any plane: circle, triangle, parallelogram. It doesn't matter. Just do whatever.
Parallelogram.
I'm going to need to create a new category after this, a new pattern called the A2 pattern. Achiever, the fixer, the chameleon, the A2, the professor.
There you go. I actually got my name, the professor, because my Taekwondo teacher, Master Yuri, he called me the professor when I was doing Taekwondo. So that's why I started going by the professor. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
okay.
Just happened organic like that. Again, I didn't choose it; it got chosen for me. But
that's a good sign when somebody else picks your name for you.
Mm-hmm. Said, are you convinced now? I know you were a bit skeptical about Big Asian Energy and if it was, what was it? Why is John Wang gatekeeping Big Asian Energy? All of these things.
Why can't it just be Big Energy? Why do you have to make it Asian? God.
Yeah, I mean, why is
it is.
To once is one.
I do agree. I will say this just to preemptively address that is, I do think that the core of it is just big you. It's big you energy. It's being authentically you, whether or not you're Asian, whether or not whatever identification you want to hold on to, that's fine. But make sure it's you and make sure it's authentic.
Tell you, I think that's a great way to end the podcast. John Wang, where can people find you? Where can people connect with you and find out more about Big Asian Energy?
Yeah, absolutely. You could check me out on Instagram, TikTok. Just look up John Wang Official or John Wang Bae, B-A-E. Or just look up John Wang and Big Asian Energy. You can find my book anywhere you buy books, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, all that kind of places. And we also have a podcast, Big Asian Energy, which we talk more about this and dive deeper into it. Self-development from an Asian lens.
Incredible.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching another episode of A2 the Show. And please like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you guys later. Peace.
See ya.
Peace.